Hey guys, it's Katie. Welcome back to my channel. I am so glad that you guys are here. I am literally so stuffed up right now. It is even funny. My allergies just made the decision to be in full swing today, so sorry about that in advance. Today's video is going to be my April wrap-up and my May TBR. Also, how are we feeling about my little like book corner in my room? This is the new setup. What do we think? I am in love with this beanbag chair and also my TBR cart. It just looks so cutie and I love her. It's giving kazoo. It's giving elephant. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into all the books that I read in April. The first book that I read this month, none other than Daisy Jones and the Six. I would definitely say this is a literary fiction slash historical fiction just because it is based in the 70s. Also, I'm pretty sure Taylor Jenkins Reid loosely based this off of Fleetwood Mac, which is kind of cool. Basically, it follows Daisy Jones and then the band The Six, but it mainly follows Daisy Jones, obviously, and then the leader of the Six, Billy Dunn. The coolest part about this book, though, is that even though they're like the main characters and you kind of hear from them the most and you get their perspective the most, you get actually everyone's perspective. You get their producer, you get their bandmates, you get Billy's wife. So it talks about how Daisy starts out, and then it talks about how Billy Dunn and the Six start out. They just play like local shows, like little gigs at like random bars. And then throughout the book, they both end up getting picked up by the same producer. And then there's a song on one of the Six's album, and Teddy's like, like, kind of needs like a female voice. Like, I feel like this should be a duet. So they bring Daisy in, they sing together, and it's just like pure magic. Talks about them living their rock star lifestyles with like drugs and alcohol and all of that kind of stuff too. And there's like two-ish subplots of romance. Currently on like episode 3, I think, of the series, and it's really, really good so far. So if you haven't read this, go read this first and then go watch the series, and seriously guys, 5 out of 5, so good. Next up, we have got Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. I haven't really talked to you guys about this yet, but this is my first time reading through the Harry Potter series, and this is book 6 out of 7, so we're almost done, and I'm very excited to finish the series. Like, it is so good, but it's gonna feel so like cool accomplishing that. I don't want to like give anything away because it's hard not to give a spoiler on like book 6 out of a 7-book series. Basically, in this book, it's year 6. They are 16 years old, and Harry learns like a key part into how he's going to be able to like destroy Voldemort once and for all. Also, it's really fun because they are 16, so they do like 16-year-old things. Like, they're starting to like each other and like date people. So it's interesting to see how they interact and how like that's changed as they've grown up throughout the series. There's also something pretty tragic that happens at the end that literally every time I watch the movie breaks my heart, and then reading the book even like literally just like shattered it. I'm gonna rate this one a 4.5 out of 5, I think. I feel like there's just so much that happens in this book, and it's just gonna lead up to the last one, which I am so excited to read. The next book I read was In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle. This one's been on my TBR for a while, and I picked this one up next because it was only like 250 pages, and it was honestly kind of nice because I just read this thicky one. The main character's name is Danny, and she basically has like everything planned out for her life. What age she gets her dream job, when she gets engaged, when she gets married, all that kind of stuff. This girl is definition type A planner. But then she ends up having this dream that's like 5 years in the future, and it ends up throwing off the entire trajectory for the plans that she has for her life. There ends up being a time jump in like the first 30 pages of the book, 4.5 years in the future, and the rest of the book covers the 6 months leading up to like the day she had the dream about of 5 years in the future, and she is doing everything in her power for that not to happen because that's not the life she thinks she wants. And there ends up being like a big plot twist in the book that changes everything for her. I would rate this book about a 3 out of 5. It's not my favorite, but I also like was on the edge of my seat the entire time I was reading. Like, I was interested. I think the biggest thing that kind of turned me off was the ending of it. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. The next book I read is none other than Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. If you saw my swapping my screen time for reading video, you would have heard all my thoughts on this book right here, and literally I was so obsessed with it. This book is highly regarded on booktube, so you've definitely heard about it, especially if you watch Haley Pham. She loves this book. This book is a YA rom-com about the main character Liz, and she herself is in love with rom-coms. She has this dream that someday her love story will be like a rom-com, that she'll have her own like meet cute moment. And when they were younger, a childhood friend of hers, Michael, like moved away, and then now he just moved back, and she was always in love with Michael, so now she has a feeling, she's like, oh my gosh, like this is it for me. Which leads me into the other main character of the story, Wes. He is I love Wes. So Wes and Liz are neighbors and they're like low-key kind of enemies because they're always fighting over this parking spot. And Wes is actually pretty good friends with Michael and she knows that. So she basically coaxes like this deal where that if Wes can help Liz get Michael to ask her to the prom, then he gets their parking spot forever. And Wes ends up agreeing, and for them to achieve this collective goal of getting Michael to ask Liz to the prom, they end up spending a lot of time together. It is an enemies to lovers. I love good enemies to lovers, and this one did not disappoint. 5 out of 5 through and through. I love this book. Also, there's a quote in this book that literally like shatters me. They end up like changing her just a little bit so that Michael will notice her more, because he kind of thinks of her as like how she was whenever they were little. And Wes basically ends up saying that he regrets her changing at all, and he says, "You look best when you're you." Oh my god, I'm sobbing. Sorry guys, had to put on pause because I had to neti pot again. What a wonderful experience. The next book I read this month was a very anticipated read for me just because it's been so hyped up, and that is Beach Read by Emily Henry. This book follows January and Gus, and they're both authors, and they also went to college together, and they were kind of like rivals in a way since they were like the same major and they were in classes together. He always gave her like really harsh criticism on like her books or her short stories. She was like, "Oh my gosh, like I hate this guy, like I don't know why he's so rude to me, like what even for? Like what is it for, Gus? Why?" Anyways, it's a few years later. January's dad ends up dying, but he has like this old house that she didn't know about. In his will, he ends up giving her the house. And it's like this nice house like on the lake, like his nice like vacation home. And guess who her next door neighbor is? Augustus Everett. It takes them a hot second, but they end up realizing who each other are, that they're neighbors, all that kind of stuff. And since they're both authors, they end up making a deal because they both have writer's block that they're both going to swap genres for the next book that they write. Gus's books are literary fiction and they're all about like very like true stories, like no happy endings. And January is all about that happy ending because she's a romance women's fiction girly. And since they don't really know about the other genres, they end up doing these like things for research, and they end up spending a lot of time together during that, and it is very, very cute. This book is without a doubt a 5 out of 5. Probably one of my favorite books that I've read of all time. I actually ended up getting Kindle Unlimited this month. I'm still testing it out, doing the free trial, but I'm really liking it so far. And the first book that I ended up reading on that was Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. I feel like any Colleen Hoover book at this point is very hyped and very popular. But if you haven't heard about this book, it is a romance book, and it is also an enemies to lovers. It's about this woman named Kenna who's guilty for like killing, kind of, not really. You learn more about that throughout the book. Her boyfriend Scotty in a car crash. So she goes to prison for 5 years, and during that 5 years she realizes she's pregnant with his baby, and the boyfriend's parents end up getting custody of her child, DM, and they also terminate her rights to like seeing her at all. So the whole book is basically about her life right after prison. She gets out, she does everything that she can to move to this town where her daughter lives so she can get to know her daughter in some way, shape, or form. And then she ends up meeting this guy named Ledger. Oh my gosh, guys! Ledger is so, ooh, I love him. Ledger was actually Scotty's best friend, and he lives right across the street from Scotty's parents, Patrick and Grace. Ledger ends up meeting Kenna at his bar that he owns, and they end up like having this like very hateful relationship, but he ends up giving her a chance to like get to know her and stuff like that, because he wanna knows why she did what she did, how she did what she did, all of that kind of stuff. It is just such a beautiful story about forgiveness, and I really did love it. It was a 4 out of 5 for me, and I still of course highly recommend it. It was a very good, fun, fast-paced read. I love Colleen Hoover for that reason. So those are all 6 of the books that I read in April, and honestly it was a very good reading month for me. Now we are going to be moving on to my pretty ambitious May TBR. I have about 9-ish books that I kind of want to get to this month, starting out with Happy Place by Emily Henry. I haven't read any of her other books, but I also just really want to read her new release since I just finished Beach Read and it was so good. But the problem is, of course, it is not in paperback and it would not look as cutie next to Beach Read. So we will see if I end up getting like very weak and end up reading the hardcover, or if I will be patient and wait for the paperback. Also for Kindle Unlimited, I'm trying to at least read 1 book on there for a month, so like it like has a reason for me to keep it since it is like $10 a month. And that book is going to be The Infinity Between Us. I've heard really great things about it. I'm pretty sure Sarah Caroli talked about it in one of her book vlogs a while ago. It's a romance book. It is childhood friends to lovers and then a second chance romance. So I think that I will thoroughly enjoy this. Now getting into my physical TBR, the first book is Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. I cannot believe I haven't read this yet because I loved Love Hypothesis. So I'm very excited to read this. It's another like STEM-nist romance novel. It's about this girl named B, and she's like a neuroengineer, and she's given like her dream project, but she has to partner with this guy named Levi from college who was like super like weird towards her and kind of like a So I'm guessing it's enemies to lovers. I don't really know. I also just wanted to read this because her new book comes out in June and I really want to read that, but I feel like before I read that, even though they're not like in a series or anything, I feel like before I read that, I have to read this. The next book, you probably could have guessed it. Really? We've got Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, aka Harry Potter 7, aka the last one of the series that I have to read. Literally insane. I feel like I've been on such a journey with these books. It's taken me a long time to get through them, especially because the last few are very thicky. I can't really say much about it because just like I said with the 6th book in the series, it's the 7th book, so if I say too much, then I'm going to be giving a spoiler. But it's our 7th year at Hogwarts, and this is definitely whenever the Battle of Hogwarts and the showdown between Harry and Voldemort happens, and I am so excited. Very anticipated read. Probably gonna sob my eyes out, but it's gonna be great. The next book we got for May is going to be Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. This is a trilogy, and this is the second one in the trilogy. I just read the fine print, the first one, in January, and I really ended up enjoying it. Also, the final offer, the third one, just recently came out, so I'm excited to get to that one as well. If you haven't heard about the Dreamland Billionaire series, it's basically about these 3 brothers and their grandpa like created, like he's like Walt Disney. He is like the Walt Disney of Dreamland, aka Disney World, and their grandpa ends up passing away and leaving a part of Dreamland to each of the sons, but each of them has like something they have to do before they get to like have that part of the will. This one is about the brother Declan, so I'm interested to see how this one plays out. Next up we got Mr. Wrong Number by Lynn Painter. Obviously I just love the last Lynn Painter book that I read, so I had to get another book by her. This is currently a little duet with The Love Wager, which just came out by her too, so I really want to read this now so I can get to that one because I've heard that one is so good. All I really know about this book is that it's about this girl who ends up sending like a spicy text message to who she thinks is like a guy she's talking to, I guess, but it's really her best friend's brother. So you know something spicy is about to happen, and I think it's just gonna be like a nice cutie little romance. Next up we have my first Abby Jimenez book, and it is Part of Your World. Same kind of thing with Mr. Wrong Number. There's a duet to this called Yours Truly coming out soon, I think, if it's not already out, so I wanted to get to this one quickly so I could read that one too. This book is an age gap trope. It's basically about this doctor who's like super career driven, and then she goes to like this small town and meets this guy who's like a little bit younger than her. They end up having a good time together, if you know what I mean, but she's like, like whatever, like nothing's gonna happen, and then I guess she can't stop thinking about him or something like that. I don't know, I'm not really too sure, but I'm excited to see what happens. And also this is my first book by her, so I'm excited to read a new author. The next book we got up here is one that my friends have literally been begging me to read forever. I'm finally doing it, guys. We have none other than A Court of Thorns and Roses, aka ACOTAR. Why'd I say it like that? ACOTAR, aka ACOTAR by Sarah J Maas. All I really know about this book is that it's a fantasy, it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I'm just going to get into thicker books as we go along. AKA she's a commitment, but I think I'm ready for it, especially after finishing Harry Potter. I'm gonna need a new little series to go for. Last but not least, for the month of May, I'm going to be reading a Sarah Adams book. Never read a book by her, so I'm excited, but this is The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. This book is a little YA romance with a football player and a ballerina, I'm guessing, because they're on the cover. I've heard people talk about it, just say that it's like a cute little easy read rom-com. It's a little bit shorter than some of the other books I got in here too, so I felt like that was a nice little contrast. Knowing myself, I'm probably gonna want a quick, more fast-paced read after reading a 750-page book, and that is going to be this one, and hopefully it's good. Like I said, we've got like 8 to 9-ish books that I'm hoping to read this month. All very good selections, and I am very excited. All right, that is my April wrap-up and my May TBR. If you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Also, leave me down below some books you guys think I should read, or if you have any reviews on these ones or these ones over here. I would love to know your thoughts. Also, let me know your April wrap-up and your May TBR. I just find it so interesting to see what everybody's reading, so let me know. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. Hope you're having a great day, and happy May. Bye, guys.